Good morning. So another student from last week sent me their ballet slippers drawing to try and get some feedback on what went well and what went perhaps could not so well or could be improved, should we say. So if I look at the original reference photo and look at the distance between the two slippers from the bottom to the top, for example, if I was to trace a line here, horizontal line, then I can see that in this area here, the slipper is slightly higher than that line. If I was to do the same here, both slippers are bang on at the same level. So that makes the perspective a little bit off, really, especially because that foot is bent. So in order to correct this, rather than trying to reduce, erase and reduce that slipper here, I would simply extend. So this one would probably go a little bit wider here, not that much, and then I would extend it down only a little bit, and the same here. So here we have an edge alongside the shoe here. There's a little edge here, which is this line here, going all the way up. So by adding this, we have a little bit more width on the shoe, so we can go down this way and just stretch it that tiny bit extra here. And then all of this would obviously be the darker area of the slipper here. And then if I was to trace another line from the bottom of that shoe, then here I'm getting roughly the same distance. So I know then that my drawing is more balanced for it. The other little mistake I've noticed is perhaps on the ankle here. So the ankle, there's quite a bulge on the side here. So I would probably go and add a bit more of a bulge here, which make obviously the ribbon look a little bit tighter, like so. And then on the side, on the inside here, the ribbon is kind of stopping here, but it's also a little bit of an edge here. So that will give you that little bit of extra width on the ankle. And also the shoe goes up all the way here. And then to the upper line, like so. The ribbon itself, I think, is okay on this side. We want a bit more definition to the edge here, and also this bit here is perhaps too narrow. So this one here compared to here is a little bit too narrow on the drawing compared to the reference photo. So I would probably just widen it a little bit more here, and only a tiny bit more here. There's not a huge difference, but it will create more balance in your drawing, really. So that's quite important. And again, the ribbon at the top of the ankle here is very much the same on the drawing. So we want to really have a little bit of extra width on the side of the ankle here, because that creates the volume we're missing. And then this line is slightly inwards compared to it. So that's more just outside of the ankle. And I will also make the ribbon a little bit thicker on the foot here. And then it goes straight down. So we're not changing the foot a huge amount, but just those little changes will really make the drawing, again, a lot more balanced. This line here, I think is okay. This line here is quite round on the drawing, whereas here there's more of a wave. So we just need to make sure we follow that wave we see. So it's just a little bit more. Again, they are subtle changes, but sometimes subtle changes will make a big difference on the results, really. This line here looks okay. I mean, I would have probably started it a tiny bit wider here. But again, there are subtle changes just to see how we can improve it. And there's a little bit of a bump on the skin here. That signifies obviously that the ribbon will be quite tight on the ankle here. Again, the ribbon, so because we've obviously extended this one, it means that on this side, this line is above that corner here. So we want to do the same on the other side. So we want to start the ribbon a bit that higher up and make it wider. And then we can just follow the foot here. So by making it wider, again, it balances the foot a lot better. There is also, no, it's not just a fold of the skin here. I thought it was a ribbon starting, but it's not. Yeah, and then, so the shoe itself, I think is quite nice. Again, perhaps look at the little lines, what they're doing. So here we have quite a straight diagonal line here, whereas really we should have a little bit of, oh, excuse me, perhaps a little bit more of a bulge here, which is probably where her toes is being squished into. The heel is, the shape of the heel is really nice. However, I would say the line here is a little bit too long compared to the reference photo. So we have a short line here and a long one here, whereas here we have a pretty much the same, almost the same distance line. So we want to correct that by extending this line a little bit like this, and then going down like that. The curve here is okay. We could probably improve on that a tiny bit. So by going a little bit more in the angle, but again, it's a subtle difference. And then obviously the sole will have to be a bit more in this direction here. The ribbons here, I would say absolutely fine as well. The only thing I would say about this one is just watch the shading a little bit. So for example, here the shading is looking a little bit too flat. So we want to really accentuate the darker areas compared to the lighter ones. So don't be afraid to add a little bit more pencil here and a little bit more pencil here, and leave the rest quite white in contrast. Okay, so we're working really to transition between your light values and your darker values is going to be nice and smooth. And then here again, the ribbon is a bit too much of the same. So if you can look at the drawing here, we have a much whiter area which is not showing here. So we need to see that difference in values is quite important, and leaving that white area here. Okay, yeah, and apart from that, I would say it was a pretty good drawing. So it's a really good effort. This is quite a technical drawing, quite a difficult one to do. So I would say that it was a really good effort from all the students last week anyway. And like I said, there are subtle changes to make it more dynamic and more, 3D. But, I'm sure in time with practice, we're all going to get there. So thank you for watching. Have a lovely day.